all you ghoulish gourmets, and welcome to a special edition of Movie Munchies, where I'm going to be showing you guys and gals how to make a damn fine cup of coffee, Agent Dale Cooper style, and cherry pie. And this is also in honor of Mr. David Lynch, who recently passed away. I know a lot of us were bummed out about that. A very creative and genius filmmaker, way, way ahead of his time. So, uh, again, you guys and gals may be thinking, well, we don't need you to show us how to make a cup of coffee, Dana. We know how to make a cup of coffee. Um, yeah, but I'm going to show you the Agent Dale Cooper way. And I'm also going to show you how to make this coffee without a French press or a coffee maker. Okay. So there may be some of us that maybe are new to coffee drinking, and we were like, well, I don't have a French press. I don't have a coffee maker. Never fear. Um, I am going to show you, maybe kind of fun in a fumbling way, but I'm going to show you guys and gals today how to do that. Okay. So let's bring up the haunted food cam here. And I am going to bring that up larger so that you guys can see what I have here. I'm sorry for the glare coming from some of this stuff, but I have my teacup that I use for Terra Time tea. I thought, why not? You can use a teacup for coffee if you want to. We have some Starbucks French roast. This has got notes of dark caramel and sweet smoke. Okay, this is a dark roast, which is they recommend for you to have. I'm sorry for the birds in the background, but you can get any kind of dark roast coffee or non-dark roast coffee that you want. Also, I know Agent Cooper it drinks his coffee black. Okay, uh, black as midnight on a moonless night. Okay. However, I have some Starbucks creamer inspired by caramel macchiato. Probably mispronouncing that all over the place. And I taste tested this stuff already, and it tastes really good. So that's what I'm going to be adding to my coffee because I don't like it black. Sorry. Okay. Now we've got our bowl here. You're going to see what I'm going to do with it. We also have a mug. This is my sloth mug that says the sloth is my spirit animal. We've got coffee filters. You can use any kind of coffee filter you want. I actually have, these are just Kroger brand coffee filters because they were cheapest. I have my spoon here to simulate the French press, and I also have my measuring spoons here. Now, um, let me, okay. I think I removed myself. Sorry about that, folks, for that little snafu. I do that from time to time, but let's see here. I don't know how this thing is. Okay. So bring me back up as the solo layout. So we have all our stuff set up, and I'm going to be starting this really soon. And then once we get the coffee made, we're going to make our cherry pie. Now, if you're making this on your own, if you want to have a nice hot cup of coffee that you don't have to reheat when you eat your pie, you might want to make the cherry pie first. Okay. But for the purposes of this movie Munchies, this is the way I'm doing it. Okay. So, first of all, let's take a look at the recipe for damn fine cup of coffee, or how to make coffee with Agent Dale Cooper. Okay. So they're assuming that you're going to make a whole pot of coffee. I'm going to be making a single serving. And that's eventually what I'm going to be showing you how to do is just to make a single serving of it. Okay. But if you've got a French press or you've got a coffee pot, percolator, whatever, then you can go by this recipe and make you 6 cups. Okay. So add 85 grams of coarsely ground dark roast coffee to a 6 cup press. I don't have a French press, but I'm going to show you how to simulate it. Okay. So you may be thinking, well, how much is 85 grams? Okay. 85 grams is about 3 ounces. Okay. Um, so then you're going to boil your water. You're going to let it sit for 30 seconds until just off boil, which means it stops bubbling. You're going to pour your water into your French press. And for those of you that have watched Twin Peaks, you will know what this refers to. Important. Ditch the percolator. A transparent French press helps avoid any accidental content with fish. And I'll describe the scene for those of you that haven't seen Twin Peaks or haven't seen it in a while. Don't remember the scene. Pete Martell, sorry, that was my oven, the preheat going, the sound to let me know it's preheated. But um, there is a scene in one of the Twin Peaks episodes where Pete Martell and Josie Packard are serving coffee to Agent Dale Cooper and Sheriff Harry Truman, okay, or Harry S. Truman. Um, and before they do that, we see Pete cutting up fish on the countertop, okay? So Josie comes and serves them the coffee. They get ready to drink it. Pete comes in there and says, Don't don't drink that coffee. He says there was a fish in the percolator. So evidently why he was cutting up fish, some of the fish ended up in his percolator. Okay. Hence that important bit of information. Okay. Then you're going to steep your coffee for 4 minutes and press the plunger down into the press. This is if you are using a French press. Enjoy your coffee hot and black as midnight on a moonless night, just like Dale Cooper. And Kyle MacLachlan, who played Agent Dale Cooper, says the darker the roast, the less caffeine, which he likes. But note that according to Kicking Horse Coffee, if you measure your coffee by scoops, light roasted coffee will have more caffeine since the beans are denser than the darker roast. And I did not know that until Blissful told me that a blonde roast is what you need to get the most caffeine. However, if you weigh out your scoops, darker roast will have more caffeine because there is less mass. Okay? So let's go from this recipe here to how to make French press coffee without a French press. Okay, so French press coffee is evidently wildly popular. I'm not a huge coffee drinker, so I did not know this. And it can be made in things other than its namesake apparatus. Here's how to duplicate the taste with just a mug, bowl, and a measuring spoon. So, first of all, we're going to add our coffee grounds to a bowl. In a deep bowl, add 1 tablespoon of coffee grounds for every cup. Okay. So, I am, hold on a second here. I'm going to bring it back up the haunted food can. I'm going to make it the solo layout so you guys can see this. And since I'm only going to be making 1 cup for myself here, if you're making multiple cups, adjust accordingly. And it smells really strong. So I'm going to scoop out try to scoop out a level. Okay. A level tablespoon for my 1 cup. Okay. And I'm going to seal this back up here so that our coffee stays fresh for I want to drink some more. All right. All right. I don't know. That's just me. All right. So now we're going to boil some water. Okay, folks. And so for that, I'm going to take it off of here and we're going to exit solo layout, bring me back up, and maybe you can see me step over here. I know you can't see my stove top and all that stuff. But okay, so we're gonna get out. You could boil the water in the microwave too, but I'm just gonna do it the old-fashioned way here. And I'm gonna put a cup of water. One moment here. I am going to put a cup of water over here into my saucepan. We're going to boil this water, and I'm not going to make you watch as I boil this water, okay? So I am going to pause this recording, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so we are back, and I boiled my water, and I also, according to the original recipe, let it sit for 30 seconds until it's just off boil. It's not bubbling anymore. So we are going to bring up the haunted food cam again, and we are going to pour a little bit of this over the coffee grounds to kind of saturate them. Okay. Let it, saturate into those coffee grounds. And this is according to the other recipe, not the original one. Uh, and then I'm just going to slowly pour the rest of this water into those grounds. Okay. Now, I know that I am going, look at that steam coming off there. I know that I am going back and forth between the two recipes, but this is just in an attempt to show you guys and gals how to do it both ways, okay? And so now what we're going to do is I'm going to very carefully pour this whole thing into this mug. Now remember, I'm not going to drink. Oh, shoot. Well, Dana is messy, folks. And I succeeded in making a mess and getting coffee grounds all over the place. Please don't do that. Don't be as messy as I am. Uh, but I probably needed a little less anyway because I'm putting this into a teacup. So I'm just going to clean up my mess as I go along here. Got a few coffee grounds. I knew it wasn't going into the mug, and I was like, okay, you're pouring it everywhere but where you're supposed to, don't you? And I could edit that out, but I probably won't. I'll probably leave it in because it's okay for y'all to see my mistakes. Right? Because everybody makes mistakes. It's not a big deal. Wipe off the bottom of my coffee creamer there. Nobody likes to spill stuff and nobody likes to make a mess, but it happens from time to time. All right. So, going back to the original recipe, we're going to let this steep for 4 minutes. And again, I'm not going to make you guys and gals wait on me as I do that. Okay. Um, I am going to pause this recording again and go away for a few minutes. Okay. So, I am back and we've let this, well, let me, I don't know why I'm so discombobulated today. Um, I am going to make this the solo layout again. And we are going to simulate the French press by simply pressing down in the bottom of this. And the how to make French press coffee without a French press. They basically tell you to hold this down on the grounds as you pour this from the mug into your cup. Okay. I'm just going to simulate the French press by pressing down on this for a few seconds. Okay. And then, because it says you alternatively can use a coffee filter, which is what I'm going to do. Because I'm sorry, but I don't like coffee grounds in my coffee. Okay. So what we're going to do is very carefully see how that coffee filter is doing its job there and catching the grounds there. Okay. And I'm going to set this over here to the side. I'm going to wipe up my little mess there. Well, not sure. Maybe because this, I'm going to wind up getting coffee grounds in there anyway, a little bit. So I'm just be very careful or you'll get coffee grounds in there like I just did. That's probably what I get for trying to uh, use my teacup as a coffee cup and not doing it the right way. Okay. All right, but I don't think I did too bad of a job here. Bad, that's fine. And as you can see too, well, you may not be able to see, in between me doing things, my coffee is not nearly as hot as it was at the beginning. Like I can stick my finger in it and it's not super, super hot. Okay. But once, you know, when following directions there, I'm going to put a little coffee creamer in there. Put as much as you like there. If you like coffee creamer, that is. Some of you might like milk. Some of you might like sugar, different things. So, me bring myself back here. This thing is not being very sensitive to me touching it. All right. And you may have seen some of those coffee grounds because I made a boo boo. Somebody will probably say, well, gosh dang, just get a coffee maker. That's pretty good. I think it could use a little more creamer in it, but um, it seems very good though. I could definitely see myself drinking this in the mornings now with a little bit of creamer in there. But if you're like Agent Cooper and you like it black, yeah, by all means, have it black. All right. So that is how to make your damn fine cup of coffee. We're going to move on. Not like the Jeffersons moving on up, but we're going to move on to making our Twin Peaks cherry pie. I'm going to put my coffee creamer away. I decided I kind of like my coffee like that with some creamer in it. That's why I like the cold coffees, the frappuccinos and the stuff of that sort because it's flavored. Um, I don't just like just straight coffee, but there are many people that do, and so whatever your pleasure is. All right. So, what do we need to make this cherry pie? Well, for the crust, I'm going to break these different things down for you. We need a half cup of cold whole milk, not 2%, not skim, but whole milk. And I don't need all this, but I'll find some way to use this. This is just Kroger brand whole milk, okay? I'll set that over there. We also need 3 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar, which again, I've just got Kroger brand apple cider vinegar. You can get whatever apple cider vinegar that you prefer. Okay. We need 2 2/3 cup of unbleached. They say unbleached. Well, unfortunately, I've got bleached flour. But if you've got the unbleached and you want to get it, but this is my all-purpose flour. It's just Kroger brand all-purpose flour. Okay. We also need 1.5 tablespoons of sugar for the crust. And I'm going to be trying to use as much of this Splenda blend as I can because I am diabetic. But if you have no sugar restrictions, feel free to use all just regular granulated sugar, okay? We need a teaspoon of salt. I have my Morton iodized sea salt. Okay. Um, we need 250 grams cold unsalted butter. Now, I don't know why they put this stuff in grams. It's beyond me why they do that. Um, so I have some unsalted butter. This is 113.4 grams in a stick of this. Okay. I didn't see that earlier. Sorry about that, folks. So, what I'm going to do, and you can look this up yourself, but because I have a device in here that I can ask things, Um, I'm going to ask my device, Echo, how much butter is 250 grams?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, 250 grams of butter equals 1 1/8 cups.
Okay. So we got 113 here and we need 250. Okay. So I'd say we could probably get by with using 2 sticks of butter. Okay. On average. So we're going to do that and see how everything turns out. Just make it easier on you guys. We also need a large egg. Okay? And I'll tell you guys something. Eggs, even large eggs, don't look as large as they used to, but maybe it's just me. I don't know. So here's my large egg. This is just Simple Truth, natural, cage-free, grain-fed. These are brown eggs. These are what I like to cook with. I'll show you there. I get these at Kroger. You can use whatever large eggs that you want to use. Okay. And keep in mind, this is all the things that we're going to need for our crust of our apple pie. Okay. We also need another fourth of a cup of whole milk, and we need some raw sugar or Splenda blend for sprinkling. Okay. Now, for our filling, we need 8 cups pitted sour cherries, fresh or frozen. Well, I couldn't get enough fresh or frozen ones. So I'm going to try to show you what I've got here. And I was very disappointed because I was expecting these. They say red tart cherries, but folks, they're white. When I take them out of here, they don't look really, really strong red color like I was expecting. And there I dropped some juice on my. They look red, but they don't look like bright red. Okay. So I was a little disappointed, but these are for making pies and things like that. Um, so I've got 4 cans of those to equal up to enough for 8 cups. We need a cup of sugar. Again, I'm going to try to use all my Splenda blend that I can. Now, we need 3 3/4 tablespoons of corn flour. I could not get corn flour, so a substitute that you can use is I have some Swan's Down cake flour. You can also use whole wheat flour as well. Okay. It's not the same thing as cornmeal. I thought maybe it was, but I looked it up. No. And a half a teaspoon of sea salt, which again, I have my Morton iodized sea salt here. Now, we need 45 milliliters of cherry liqueur or cherry flavored brandy. Now, 45 milliliters is not much. Okay. So here are my milliliters on my measuring cup. So 45 is going to be less than a little bit less than a fourth of a cup. So it's not a lot. Okay. So I ended up going with this is De Kuyper, I think is how you pronounce that. Cherry flavored brandy. Okay. This stuff is 90 proof, folks. So if you drink it, if you drink the extra that's left over, be very, very careful. Okay, and the reason why I ended up getting the cherry brandy instead of the cherry liqueur is because that bottle of cherry brandy was $12. Cherry liqueur is like 40, 30, and $40. I was like, nah, not for this pie, you know. So, all right. So those are the things that we need to make this pie. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's get started here. Okay. So we're going to make our crust first. And don't be fearful, those of you that have never made a homemade pie crust. Um, I think I've done it one time. So y'all are going to get to watch me pass or fail on this video here. Okay. So in a liquid measuring cup, we're going to stir together our milk and our vinegar. Okay. So I think I'm going to use I'm going to bring the haunted food cam up. Bring the solo layout up. So we're going to go ahead and measure half a cup of whole milk. Okay. And then I'm going to, because milk spoils very easily. So I'm going to set it back in here so we get ready to use it again. And we also need 3 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. We're going to measure that out. I probably should have opened this up because it doesn't have a seal on it. Okay. So let's go ahead and put our 3 teaspoons very carefully here of apple cider vinegar in this milk. Okay. Of course, I'm putting things away as I go along, just like my mom always taught me. And I'm also going to just give this a little stir here. Don't have to be real vigorous with it. Okay. All right. And then in a large mixing bowl, I'm going to get my large mixing bowl out here. I'm trying not to break anything in the process. Because I would probably cry if I broke my Pioneer Woman mixing bowls. All right. So let's set vinegar and milk aside, and we'll get this large mixing bowl over here. So in our large mixing bowl, toss the flour, sugar, and salt with a fork to combine. Okay. Let's get out a fork here. And so we're going to put our 2 2/3 cup of flour in here. I'll try not to make a mess with my flour, folks. I'm going to get out my large measuring cup for this. And sometimes I'll just set it in the bowl. That way I don't make as big a mess. See how I'm doing there? It'd be better to have the scoop, but I don't have enough scoop. So, all right. Let's see if this is 2 cups. Put that in there. And then we need 2/3 more. And that's just going to be just a little bit more, folks. There we go. There's our 2 2/3 cup of flour. I'm going to set this flour back over here. Reminds me, I'm going to have to get some more flour when I get groceries again. And we're going to put our 1.5 tablespoons of sugar in here, or in my case, my Splenda blend. 1.5. Here's my half there. I don't use that one very often. Okay. We're going to set this back over here. We need it again. And then we're going to put our salt, which we just need a teaspoon of salt. Put in there. Okay. And then we're going to do just like the recipe says. We're going to toss it. Don't get too crazy because you'll make a mess. So I'm just kind of just mixing it around in here to get it combined with my fork here. I think you could probably do the same thing with a spoon or whatever you want. Okay. All right. So now, using a pastry cutter, cut. Now I'm going to go away and cut my butter into cubes because remember it said cold unsalted butter cut into cubes. So I'm going to pause this and I will be back in just a few. Okay, folks. Now we're going to use a pastry blender. Or if you don't have a pastry blender like this, you can do the same thing with a fork. Okay. You can simply take the fork and press down on these cubes until they are incorporated into the flour. So I have my pastry blender or pastry cutter. We're going to cut in our butter cubes until the butter is the size of small peas. And they actually tell you to do that before you put them in the flour. But if you make the mistake like I did, never fear. You can do this like when you're making biscuits, okay? That's just because I wasn't paying attention to the directions, okay? So never fear. It's going to be added to the flour anyway. And if you are using a pastry cutter, you may have to clear it out every once in a while. I may get aggravated with this pastry cutter and take out my trusty fork. Yeah. This when you see the butter get kind of, the size of, peas, you know that you've got it cut enough, right? This hopefully won't take very long, so y'all can watch as I do this. And remember, I said that it was about a couple of sticks of butter. You can use a little more if you think you need to. Okay. I can see that my cubes of butter, and you can cut them into cubes any way that works for you. Okay. I'm not going to specifically tell you got to cut them a certain way. I just basically slice the butter and then cut it into 4 full cubes. That's what worked for me. Okay. Okay. So let's clear this out again. I think we've got our butter looks small. Looks sort of like peas. Remember again, clean hands when we're doing all this stuff, right? All right. So now, use a fork or a large spoon. Slowly add the let's see, sorry, got distracted. Using a fork or a large spoon, slowly add the liquid and 4 or 5 additions, stopping after every pour to combine until the dough just sticks together, kind of like when you're making biscuits. Okay. So we're going to take our milk and our um, apple cider vinegar, and I'm just going to pour a little bit in there. Okay. And then I'm going to mix it a little bit. Okay. I'm going to pour a little bit more in there. Again, we're going to mix it. I'm just deciding to use my trusty wooden spoon. I love using wooden utensils when I can. Okay. I'll pour a little bit more. Again, I'm sorry if I keep hitting the arm on my this got my camera, my extra camera. It's a thousand words. I don't knock it a winding. I'm trying to do this. Because your host for movie Munchies is very clumsy. A lot of times I trip over my own 2 feet sometimes. Okay. Get that mixed in there real good. All right. And you may have some on your fingers there. Okay. We're going to knead it lightly in the bowl until it forms a tight ball. Okay. So I'm just going to start. Get your hands in there. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Just make sure that your hands are free from any nastiness before you start putting it in the food. Okay. You have to run to the restroom or something in between cooking. Just always wash your hands. Okay, folks. So I'm just kind of kneading and squishing this together. So hopefully it will form this ball that's supposed to. May not be perfect, but we're trying here. It's starting to. Just mainly trying to get this all mixed up there good. Don't worry if it sticks to your fingers. It probably is going to, because the dough is kind of sticky. And as you knead it, it starts to stick together a little bit. And that's what we want. Okay. And see, this isn't too hard, is it? So far, making your own pie crust. I know some people are fearful about making things for the first time, but look at me, folks. Look at me. I'm on here doing this stuff and I'm doing it not live, but this is still a video that's going to go out to the masses, the people that watch my channel. You see how we're getting that to form into a ball now? If you knead it enough, it's going to. Okay. So if I can do this, you guys and gals can do this, right? All right. Gotta get some of that off our hands. All right. So once we got that done, we're going to separate the dough into two equal size round, dish shapes. And I'm going to have to refrigerate this for an hour. So I will be going away for a little bit while I let that chill. Okay. But I am going to show you, we're going to try to we're going to half our dough. Okay. We're going to make equal size disc, right? So let me move this temporarily, maybe. Kind of running out of space here. So let's take about half of our dough here. That looks pretty even. Okay. What do you think, gang? Okay. So I'm going to put this other over back in the bowl for a second while I get this one rolled out. And you can do this with a rolling pin, or you can do like I'm doing and just take your hand and press it out. Now, if you want to see if this is going to be relatively big enough for whatever pie pan that you're using, okay, you can do that, right? And I have my 9.5-inch pie pan right here, okay? And that would be a good place for you to see, oh, okay, I know that I need to have at least it spread out in this shape, at least for my bottom. And then you can probably guess what we're going to do with the top part. The top part, or the other part that we do, is going to be for the lattice, the crisscrossing on top of the pie, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to make sure that my dish shape, at least for the bottom crust part of the pie, is going to be, not super, super thin, but spread out where it will spread out to the diameter of your pie. Okay. And they recommend using a deep dish one. This is about as deep as I got around the house. I didn't go out and buy a new pie pan. But if you don't have a pie pan and you're wanting to make this homemade crust, then you might want to invest in one. You don't have to spend a lot. I know everything's expensive nowadays, but try to, gauge how much you can afford to spend, right? Okay. So it's, I'm going to put a little plastic wrap on this, but I'm going to leave this in my pie pan while I've got it chilling in the refrigerator. Okay. I'm just trying to get it pretty even, you know, pretty nice around the edges and stuff like that. Okay. And then we're going to get a little plastic wrap. Just put over this one. Okay. And I know y'all are not seeing me do that, but I am sticking this in my refrigerator. Make it green for it here. And never fear, I'm not going to make y'all stay with me while this is chilling for an hour, because that would be very, very boring. Okay. So we're going to make another cylinder shape, relatively the same size, because we want to have enough lattice strips um, to go on top of our pie, right? So let's try to do relatively the same thing here. So I'm not going to make y'all wait. I think y'all got the idea of we want this cylinder shape, right? So we are going to bring myself back. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away for a little bit. We're going to pause this recording and I'm going to let this stuff chill for an hour, and then I will be back in a little bit. Welcome, gang, to yet another Behind the Recipe. And this is a Behind the Recipe for Agent Dale Cooper's Damn Fine Cup of Coffee and Cherry Pie, folks. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why I decided to do this and the recipes that I'm using. And some of you may be thinking, well, I don't need to know how to make a cup of coffee, Dana. I know how to make my own damn fine cup of coffee. But, this behind the recipe segment, when I did it for Grandma's Killer Mac and Cheese, seemed to be popular, seemed to resonate with folks. So I am going to continue that. I am back at my desk tonight doing this in preparation of the upcoming movie Munchies. for Agent Dale Cooper's Damn Fine Cup of Coffee and Cherry Pie. Now, when me and Steve ever get our desks moved, um, I will be able to set up my pull up green screen. And in that case, when that is completed and I can do that, I will be putting a virtual background behind me that looks like this cozy living room with a fireplace. And I think that's going to be really cool. It's actually the same picture I use for the intro to this segment. So, without further ado, let's get into behind the recipe for this particular movie, Munchies. So, the reason why I came up with this or got the idea to do this is based on a sad thing that happened recently, and it was the passing of David Lynch. David Lynch was responsible for a lot of great films, as well as a fantastic television show that started out as a movie pilot called Twin Peaks. And in the last few years also had a resurgence. It had a additional season added on to the original 2 seasons of the original run of Twin Peaks. And for those of you that watch Twin Peaks, you know what I'm talking about when I say damn fine cup of coffee, because there's several times that Agent Dale Cooper, played expertly by Kyle MacLachlan, remarks on how fantastic different coffees are. He is a big time coffee drinker, and he also likes pie, in particular cherry pie. So he's a man after my own heart. And I'm not talking about the song She's My Cherry Pie. I'm not talking about that kind of cherry pie. I'm talking about eating some, cherry pie. I love cherry. Cherry, cherry, cherry. I love it. And my mom loves the taste of cherries, but she doesn't like eating cherries. She just like if you get cherry pie filling that's just got the flavor of cherry, she's fine with that. I like it all. I don't care. I love it when I get a mixed drink at a restaurant and they put a cherry in it. I get all excited. You could ask Steve about that. But to get back to these recipes, um, for those of you that didn't watch Twin Peaks or have not seen one episode of Twin Peaks, you may say, well, I don't get this. But hopefully, after watching my movie Munchies, watching this, it'll give you a little more insight. So I did the movie Munchies for Grandma's Killer Mac and Cheese, and that was going to be it for the month as far as movie Munchies because I planned to do one per month in the upcoming year. However, with the untimely passing of David Lynch, I was like, why not? Why not do another one and do it for the cup of coffee? Damn fine cup of coffee, that is, and cherry pie. So I found a recipe how to make coffee with Agent Dale Cooper, and it's Kyle MacLachlan actually making the coffee. So again, making a cup of coffee is not that hard. But, I'm not a huge coffee drinker. I don't even own a coffee pot. I know, blasphemous, right? So I had planned to get a French press that they talk about in this recipe. However, as you watch this particular movie, Munchies, you're going to notice that I'm not using a French press. I simply am going to show you guys how to do this without a French press, without a percolator, a coffee pot, whatever you want to call it. Okay? So I will actually save that for the video. But this is going to be made with coarsely ground dark roast coffee. and you're going to see what kind of coffee dark roast that I chose when you watch the movie Munchies video. So I'm not going to describe that right now. So basically, 85 grams of coarsely ground dark roast coffee. You're going to boil water. You're going to let it sit for 30 seconds. And then normally you would pour the water into the French press. And it says important. And for those of you that have, again, seen Twin Peaks, you will remember the scene where Pete Martell and Josie Packard serve Agent Cooper and Sheriff Harry Truman some coffee. You will understand this. It says important, ditch the percolator. A transparent French press helps avoid any accidental content with fish. And if you're confused by that, go back and watch Twin Peaks, folks. If you've seen Twin Peaks and you've forgotten about that, the percolator and the percolator coming in contact with the fish, um, watch the show again. It's during the first season, and you will know exactly what I'm talking about there. So you're going to steep the coffee for 4 minutes. And if you're using the French press, you're going to press the plunger down into the press. Enjoy your coffee hot and black as midnight on a moonless night. That is another quote from Agent Dale Cooper in Twin Peaks. And I'm not going to drink it, as you will see on here. Black as midnight on a moonless night. I know, blasphemous, right? I'm actually going to be putting a little coffee creamer in my coffee because I don't like to take it black. Okay. But if you want to drink it like Agent Cooper, then definitely drink it black. Some of you may like to drink it black. And Kyle McLaughlin says the darker the roast, the less caffeine. So remember that. If you are caffeine restricted or you just restrict your caffeine, the darker the roast, the less caffeine. And I remember Blissful actually told me to get blonde, excuse me, my voice is starting to go, blonde roast because it would have more caffeine in it. And that all makes more sense to me now. Now, there's a note from Kicking Horse Coffee, too. If you measure your coffee by scoops, light roasted coffee will have more caffeine since the beans are denser. I'm kind of giving you coffee 101 here than a darker roast. However, if you weigh out your scoops, darker roast will have more caffeine because there's less mass. So keep that in mind. Okay. Now, on to the cherry pie. Now, here's the deal with the cherry pie. This is a fan created recipe for Twin Peaks cherry pie. The cherry pie that, sorry, folks, that Norma serves at the Double R Diner. And Agent Cooper remarks, this must be where pies go to die. Okay. So, this is the recipe that I got off of the internet, and I have just named it Twin Peaks Cherry Pie because that's what it's supposed to be. Okay. And like I said, this recipe is, I guess, never been given out, it's been kept secret. So, this is a recipe put together by fans of Twin Peaks. And it's going to have cherry brandy in it. Now, I could have got cherry liqueur, but cherry liqueur was very expensive. So I got cherry flavored brandy. Okay. So a little bit of insight into the recipe that I am going to be making for movie Munchies this week. And now, Sorry.
Let's
I don't
get
think I
back
waited for that
to
to come
some
back on there
movie
and say
munchies
recording
and
resume.
Agent
To
Dale
save a little
Cooper's
bit of
Damn
time
Fine
because
Cup
I
of
do have
Coffee
a watch
and
along
cherry pie.
at 7 tonight or this evening. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to fix the filling for this, okay? And so I've already, well, if I bring it up here, um, hopefully I won't have to do too much back and forth because some of the dogs are out, a couple of the dogs are out. But I've got my 8 cups of cherries in my medium saucepan. Okay. And you can use fresh, frozen, or in my case, canned. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add, well, this is Splenda blend, but if you are not on a sugar restricted diet, you can use a cup of regular sugar. Now, we need 3 3/4 tablespoons of the corn flour, or in my case, this Swan's Down cake flour, or you can use wheat flour as well if you don't have any corn flour. And remember, corn flour, I checked, is not the same as cornmeal. Okay, just wanted to, nor is it exactly the same as cornstarch. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to measure out 3 3/4. I'm going to attempt to 3 3/4 tablespoons of my substitute for corn flour, which is this Swan's Down cake flour. Okay. So I got, here's 2 tablespoons. Okay. And of course, I'm getting it all over the place again. Okay. And I'm going to try, because I'm not sure exactly how much 3/4 of a tablespoon is. So I'm just going to go with my 1 tablespoon. And I know that when we're dealing with cups, 3/4 is almost a cup. Okay. So I'm going to try to kind of gauge here about how much I need. I think that's good. All right. And I think what this is going to do is this is going to serve as a thickening agent. I may not be 100% right on that, but I think that that is the case. Okay. And I'm also going to wipe up my mince a little bit. Uh, okay. So we've got, excuse me, we've got our cherries, we've sugar, our corn flour, or in my case, cake flour, and we also need a half a cup of this, half a cup. Sorry, folks. I am so sorry that I seem a little discombobulated now. There was a crime that happened, really close to our neighborhood, and it kind of got me shook up. So, and it happened Friday, but I'm just now learning all the details on it. So, a half of a teaspoon, folks, not a half a cup, a half a teaspoon of the sea salt. Okay. So, we're gonna mix this together. I'm gonna get out one of my other wooden spoons here. I'm just gonna very carefully mix that together. I know it looks kind of gross now, but it's gonna look better. But as you can see, I was expecting very red cherries, And maybe it'll get redder as I heat this up. I would have really preferred to get fresh or frozen, but I was not able. I don't know if the. Does anybody know if there's a cherry shortage or anything? Um, it looks a little more red now. Okay, so um, we are going to cook over medium heat until the cherries thaw. If you're using frozen cherries, I need to switch this back to me as a solo layout. And I'm stepping over here. I'm just going to mix this just a little bit. I've got it on the burner, but we are going to cook over medium heat. So I'm going to turn this on medium heat. Um, you're going to do that until the cherries thaw if you're using frozen and the corn flour and the sugar dissolve. And then once that happens, reduce heat to medium low, stirring occasionally to keep cherries from burning, and cook until the mixture thickens slightly. That's going to be around 20 minutes. So I am going to go away again for a little bit and finish chilling my dough and also get these cherries ready. So I'll be back in a few. Okay, gang. Um, Here's a little tip for you guys and gals. Even though I read that cornstarch was not the same as corn flour, to get my filling to thicken up, I had to put cornstarch in there. And then it started thickening. It wasn't thickening with the other stuff. So if you don't have corn flour, feel free to use cornstarch, okay, and get this thick. Another tip, if you are using cherries that are not really that bold red color and you want them to look that way, put a little red gel food coloring in there and that makes them look a lot nicer. Okay. So I have measured out the cherry brandy. Remember, I said we needed a little less than a fourth of a cup. Okay. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to step over here and add that to our filling mixture here. Okay. And then I'm going to remove it from the heat. And I'm going to bring up the haunted food cam for you guys and gals so that you can see what these cherries look like here. Okay. I think they look really, really good, especially now that I added the red gel food coloring. So if your cherries that you've gotten don't look as red as you would like them to, there's a tip. Also, please remember that you can use cornstarch, okay, to thicken it up. So I think the filling looks really good. I even taste tested it, and if it's not sweet enough, add a little more sweetener, add a little more sugar, get it to your liking, because that's what cooking is all about, making it the way you want it to be. You don't necessarily have to go verbatim by a recipe, right? And mine was sweet, but I may add just a little more sweetener to it, the Splenda blend, just to make mine just a little bit sweeter, kind of cut off that tart taste. But if you like that tart taste to your cherries and you don't like them real sweet, then the cup of sugar and or sweetener might be just fine for you. Okay. So I'm going to let this cool to room temperature, and then I will be back and we'll be ready to do our next steps in this lovely, lovely pie. Um, and I'm trying to get this all done before 7 o'clock. However, I may have to push the watch along to a little bit later. Um, and I know you guys will be seeing this afterwards, but um, I hope people keep a lookout because I want to do the cube watch along because Brian did give a pretty hefty super chat. He gave $20, so I definitely I want to make sure I do it for anybody, but especially when somebody's shelling out that kind of money. But I will be back in a few, and we'll start getting this pie put together. Okay, gang. I am back once again. You can see that our cherries have been sitting. Um, I think they're about room temperature right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully and try not to spill them and set them back on the code burner. Now, I'll make sure that burner's off. Um, and now we're going to return to our crust. So we're going to leave um, the pie crust that's already in my pie pan. Remember, I said that would probably save you time to do it that way because if you go exactly by the recipe, they're going to make you transfer that to the pie plate anyway. So let's go ahead and get our other piece out because we're supposed to leave the pie crust that's in the pie pan out. And this is the part that we're going to make our lattice, our little crisscross pieces of dough that go on the top of the pie that make it look so pretty, right? Because you've got your cherry, filling showing between that lattice, and it looks beautiful, kind of like the picture I've got on the thumbnail. Okay, so let's go ahead and make the haunted food cam the solo layout again, and I'm going to attempt to roll this out a little bit more and make it a little thinner for our lattice strips, okay? And I may go ahead and get my um, rolling pin out here, a handy dandy rolling pin. So we want this into a 3 millimeter thick rectangle. You can kind of judge how thick you need this to be. About 38 centimeters uh, inch or 38 inches long and 30, I guess, inches wide. Okay. So y'all can kind of judge here. I'm just going to try to get this into a rectangle about the thickness I need it to be. Okay. Again, I've been cooking for a while, but not nearly as many years as my mom has. So I've still got, things I'm learning. Just like I learned that it was better to go ahead and put cornstarch into that filling and make it thick. And some people might say, well, dang you dummy, that's what you need to do. But I was trying to go by the recipe, but what I was using was not working. The substitute for corn flour was not working to thicken that up. It simply would not thicken until I put the cornstarch in. So I'm here to tell you if you don't have corn flour or can't get any corn flour in time and you want to make this pie, the cornstarch will work in a pinch to thicken your filling up, okay? And also, if your cherries are not red enough, a little red gel food coloring will do the trick, okay? So, I mean, that's kind of rectangle shape, folks. I know it's not exactly perfect, but all right, let's lay this over here. So, what we're going to do with this, working quickly, we've rolled this out like we need it. We're going to cut it into 6 strips about 5 centimeters wide. So, just kind of gauge. You guys and gals all have looked at lattice pies, and you can probably get a good gauge on that. Okay. So, we're going to cut this into 6 strips, or I'm going to attempt to. Okay, here. So here we go. See, that's not too hard, is it, folks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And I'm going to take this leftover and alternatively, and I'm going to set it to the side just in case we need it. Okay. Alternatively, you can cut the dough into 5 zigzag strips and lay on top of the pie filling. And that would be even more of a Twin Peaks looking design, I would say. So we've got our 6 strips there. So now I'm just going to set these strips. Well, I'm going to try to here. I may have to mend them back together here. Trying to be real careful. So we want to have room, put our pie plate here, right? All right. So we're going to, and I know y'all aren't seeing me right now, but I'm going to bring my pie plate with the second dough over. And we should have already heated our oven, by the way, to 430 degrees, okay? And we are going to fill with the cherry pie filling. Now, remember when I said use a deep dish pie pan if you have one? Well, I may have more cherry than I know what to do with, but I'm going to set that there. And we're going to get my ladle out because I think this will be easier. Try not to drip it everywhere. Kind of try to see how that red food coloring really added to this, or I think it added to it. So I think I'm actually going to have some extra cherries. So. And I could have made that crust go up higher, and I probably should have, but leave alone. So I had some extra cherries. I'm going to find something to do with those. And now we filled it with cherry pie filling. Now we're going to weave our lattice strips over the top. Okay. All right. All right. And this isn't perfect, and this may not be like everybody does their pies, okay? A couple of these are a little bit shorter. Okay. I'm just going to try to kind of clamp those that go over the edges like that. All right. So, I could have done that a little bit better, but I think that looks, I think that looks good. What I'm going to do here, just going to try to make that look just a little bit better. All right. Just maybe even those off just a little bit, right? Okay. So now the next thing we're going to do here is we probably could put more, you could put more lattice on there if you wanted to. You most certainly could. And in fact, we can, put a little more. Give me just a second. See if we can. Well, no, I think I'm going to call it good, folks. I'm going to call it good. But if you want to add more lattice strips to your pie, you most certainly can. But I think for the first time I made a lattice pie like this, I think that's pretty good. Um, so, um, so now in a small bowl, we're going to whisk our egg and our um, fourth of a cup of whole milk. Okay, because we're going to be making an egg wash. Okay, and what are we going to do with this egg wash? Well, we're going to put it on the flattest part of the crust. So we're going to get a fourth of a cup of whole milk. And we're going to put our I'm going to get me a small bottle out of here. I'm going to put this fourth of a cup of whole milk in here. And then try not to get the eggshells in there. Most of the time I do good, but I have, on occasion. Sorry about that. It is
Dana,
6 o'clock.
Here's your reminder. Feed Toby.
Let's, and we're just going to whisk. Well, try not to make a mess.
Dana, here's your reminder. Feed Toby.
But we're just going to whisk that. If you've got it in a bigger bowl and want to use your whisk, if you've got a whisk, a fork works in a pinch. Okay? Get that whisked in there good. This is what's called an egg wash. And what we're going to do with this egg wash, we're going to brush our crust with it. Okay. So it's okay if it runs into your filling a little bit. Okay. Nobody said it had to be perfect, right? It's gonna hopefully cook up and not look congealed on there. I probably could have used a smaller brush, folks, truth be told, but I think what this is going to do is going to make this a little more golden brown here. Okay. to the side. Clean hands, folks, remember. All right. So we're also going to sprinkle with some sugar, or in my case, I'm using the Splenda blend. Just going to sprinkle it on the top here. Sprinkle as much or as little as y'all want. You've seen the pies that have a little sprinkling of sugar on them, right? I know I have, and they always look really, really good. Okay. So after we've done that, and get you kind of back to me so you can see the pie and me. Um, After we've done that, we're going to place on a baking tray, and I actually forgot to get me a baking tray or a baking sheet out of there. And then so, the noise folks. And so you can just use a baking sheet just like this. So we're just going to carefully put the pie. I'll try to be very, very careful. We don't want to drop this pie. And this is basically to keep a lot of this stuff, if it, you know, goes over, like some of the cherry filling goes over, keep it from dropping in the bottom of your uh, oven. I take just a second to put these things back in here. Sorry for the noise, folks. Uh, slide that in there. Okay. So now we're going to put this in our oven. Again, very, very carefully. Don't burn yourself. So we are going to be cooking this for 20 minutes. You're going to rotate your pie plate about halfway through. So about 10 minutes in, open the oven very carefully, rotate the pie plate. Then I'll be back in about 20 minutes, and we're going to lower the heat, and I'll remind you again, to 180 degrees, and bake it for another 30 to 40 minutes until the crust is golden brown and the filling is thick and glossy. Now keep in mind, juice may bubble onto your baking tray. That's why you're using it. You can remove the pie to a wire rack to cool before serving. However, I don't think my wire racks are sturdy enough to hold up this pie plate filled to the brim with cherries and stuff. So I will probably just set it out on my countertop to cool slightly. But I will be back in a few, folks. Okay, gang. I am back yet again. Um, we have cooked it for 20 minutes. I rotated the entire baking tray halfway through that 20 minutes. Now we're going to lower our oven temperature to 180 degrees. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. There we go. And because we had it heated to 430, we're at just the right temperature. So I'm going to go away again. And we are going to bake this for another 30 to 40 minutes. I'm going to set it for 40, but I'm going to check it at 30. And if it's nice and golden brown at 30 minutes, I will go on and take it out at that time. If not, I'll cook it another 10 minutes. Now, all ovens are different. So that's why they've got that 30 to 40-minute time frame. So, gang, I will be back in a few. Hello, once again, gang. And as you can see, the fruits of my labor are on the haunted food cam. I'm pretty proud of this pie. I mean, does it look perfect? No, but I could see myself making, many more of these pies in the future. Oh my gosh, it smelled so good while it was cooking. Um, in fact, let's zoom in on that pie, shall we? The I think the red food coloring really added to it. It made the filling a lot redder. My lattice needs work. I'll admit to that, but I think that's pretty decent for my first cherry lattice pie. And I could also see, like I said earlier, where I could have made the crust on the bottom come up further, where I could have crimped it at the edges, and it probably would have made it a little prettier. Now, for those of you that aren't too adventurous and don't really want to make your own pie crust, nothing says that you can't get a deep dish pie crust that'll more than likely already come in its own pan. You just got to put the filling in it. And you can make your own lattice, out of the dough, right? You might want to make a little bit smaller batch, but there you go. And that would save you some time, make it a little bit easier on you. Um, I'm gonna see if I can um cut this. I don't know if I've let it cool enough or not. Probably not. Um, but let's just see here. I can tell you one thing, it is a juicy pie. Cut through this lattice a little bit. Um, and it's probably going to get more solid as it cools, folks. So uh, don't be alarmed if this kind of falls apart here, okay? Um, let's see if I've cut through the crust properly. I'm not sure why my crust was so thin. I don't think I made it that thin, but you know, let's see what we can do here. Like I said, don't be alarmed if this kind of falls apart, okay? Because I probably should have let it cool a little bit longer, but frankly, I want to take a taste and I've got to do this watch along. And so I've kind of got to hurry things along here. But I'm trying to scoop that out of here without making too much of a mess. See what I mean, folks? That's why I said don't be alarmed if this cutting board is great for setting stuff on, but when I'm trying to cut things and stuff like that, um, sometimes it makes it a little bit difficult. Okay. So that looks like a bloody mess, don't it? Now, like I said, it's probably going to firm up a little bit more once I let it. Oh, there we go again. There we go. Like I said, that's probably going to firm up as it cools. But since I'm strapped for time a little bit here, folks, I'm going to take a taste of this. It the cherries ran all over and all that stuff. But let's take a take. I think it's pretty good. I bet it's even going to be even better once it cools off. But gang, if you like cherry pie, I think you're going to like this. Mm, that is indeed good. And again, I'm not falling over. I'm not spasming. I'm not gagging or choking or anything. I can't remember if I told everybody, but I added an extra half a cup of sweetener, or if you're using sugar, if you're not on a sugar restricted diet, I added a half a cup more of Splenda to my filling before, I put it into the pie crust and all that. So feel free to do that. If you taste it, it's not quite sweet enough for you, try adding a little bit more sugar. Okay. And um, you could have ice cream with this if you wanted some vanilla ice cream. Not only could you have the damn fine cup of coffee, but you can have some ice cream or whipped cream, or you can just eat it like I just ate. Took a couple of bites. So that is, I've got 10 minutes before that watch on because I rescheduled it till 7:30. And I still got to do a couple of things before I get started with it. So I hate to rush off, folks, but I hope you guys and gals have enjoyed this movie Munchies for Agent Dale Cooper's Damn Fine Cup of Coffee and Cherry Pie. I'm off like a dirty shirt. This shirt ain't dirty, but I'm off like one. And I want to remind everybody, as I always do before I get off of here for the night, to be kind to one another and blaze that trail.